Before we jump into it, we do have rapid fire questions. There are 3 questions. So when I ask the question, first thing that comes to your mind, we want to hear it. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So your favorite thing about Vegas?
Ooh, I think it's the beautiful mountains and the sunsets.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's beautiful. Beautiful natural beauty. Just it's so expansive, and I live close to Red Rock, and I just think it's really beautiful. It's peaceful.
Yeah. Looks amazing out that way.
Yeah.
You were a trained dancer.
Yes.
So, you have a lot of, history and background with dancing.
I do.
What's your favorite song to dance to?
Oh, okay. This just shows where I'm at in my life. You said rapid fire.
Yeah. Let us know.
My kids are super into K-pop Demon Hunters.
Okay.
And this is not, any of my old students would be like, who is she? Because that was not, I was just really kind of emo,
Okay.
music,
Yep.
alternative, loved classical when I was teaching. That's what I loved to choreograph to.
Okay.
And now, it's Golden, Soda Pop, if you know the song. Probably not. This is off of K-pop Demon Hunters.
Okay.
So thank you, Michael and Julia.
And one more question.
Okay.
We're entering fall now,
Yeah.
and you're always stylish. I'm
Ooh.
digging the little blazer
I was
right
trying
here.
to call in fall.
Yeah.
I was maroon.
You
Let's
did
go.
it.
Okay,
You did it.
thank you.
So, what is your favorite color to wear in the fall?
I like a deep brown.
Okay.
But not too far off from maroon, burgundy. I'm kind of trying to lighten it up a little bit, but
Okay.
I love the browns, the rich chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Just feels like latte, and get some boots and a scarf. That's my dream. I went to school in New York, and I also
Right.
love the East Coast, so I miss that. You can wear layers.
Yep.
So I will take this off when I leave because it's still hot here.
Yeah.
But for this, I was let's layer up.
I love it. Well, thank you for answering those rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Now it's time to get into it. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Financial Seeds Podcast, where we believe that financial freedom is built one conversation at a time. I'm your host, JimDre Westbrook, and every week we are here to empower families to go from striving to thriving by having smart, practical money talks. Today's episode, we are going to talk about education and financial literacy and how they connect the two when you ask the right questions. And you know what? We got the right guest that will be asking the right questions. And right now, I would love to introduce her so you guys know who we're talking about. Our guest today is a true leader in reimagining education. She is the co-founder and chief impact officer at the Center for the Future of Learning, where she helps schools and districts design learner-centered, future-ready experiences. Please join me in welcoming to the pod, Jeanine Collins.
Hey. That was so fun.
Yes. Thank you for accepting our invitation. I know that you are a very busy woman. You got a lot going on. I, again, think that you're the best person to have this type of conversation. You are a very cool person, so I'm glad that you are making some time to just chop it up with us and have some fun.
Totally.
Today.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited.
Cool. So, let's just jump straight in.
Let's do it.
When we kind of talk about the power of learning, you've dedicated your career to transforming education. So what has inspired you to focus on learner-centered design in future-ready learning?
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't think I woke up after high school or college and knew that was going to be the direction I was going in. But now that I am a little bit older, I have the ability to look back and look at, I think, the things that were always resonating with me and were inspiring to me. And I think from a very young age, I felt like the concept of individual agency was really important. That an early memory that my parents recently reminded me of is that I was on a, we used to video record. Back before cell phones, we would video record experiences, things that we were going on in our lives. And I was like 3 years old in our backyard outside. And my little sister had just been born, and they were trying to tell her to do something. She was like a baby. And I am on this videotape saying, like, let her do what she wants to do. You do what you want to do. I do what I want to do. Like, let me do what I want to do. Like, just like, what are you doing? And certainly, I think, there is a need for guidance and support and mentorship and community, right? And an adherence to, I think, a set of values that help us live together, work together, and thrive together. And we are each individuals. We each have different strengths. We are all smart in unique ways. And I think through my training as an artist, as a dancer, as a choreographer, this idea of developing expression and a point of view on the world, and that only you have the ability to see the world the way that you do and express what it is that you see and feel, just felt so very human to me. It changed the way I thought about myself. And I think I really became a teacher because it was in school where I was lucky enough to have that recognition that I was more than my academic test score. And so I think the fact that I was able to understand that about myself, and it changed the way I thought about possibility in my life, led me through a career in education to recognizing that really wasn't the way a lot of kids experience school. Didn't experience themselves. And I just, as a teacher, as an advocate for young people, since I was 2 years old, advocating for my sister, I think I just felt like we could do better. And I think we can. And I think more and more we're recognizing that this isn't something that needs to change on the backs of only teachers in classrooms, but it's really something about the way that we design our systems, and that the way that we connect and build as community to really empower every learner or human, and we're all humans, so we're hopefully learning, so we're all learners, to be able to express who they are, contribute their unique gifts so that we can thrive.
Oh, man. I mean, I told y'all, the best person to have this conversation. I mean, you said so much that we'll be here all night, kind of breaking that stuff down. I love how you talked about, with us being human, us being learners. So you would think that, this is something that continues from ages 2 when you stood up for your sister to, 100. The educational system is kind of this big thing that I know we can't solve today. But how do you see education as more than academics, but something that shapes young people and how they approach life, including things like money?
Well, I think that the purpose of school is something, just like the purpose of anything, is something that we can and should be exploring and re-exploring throughout the course of our lives. We hear this all the time, we live in a rapidly changing world. And I think that the design, this is not something I think, this is something that is true in the history of how we designed our education system. It was designed, during the Industrial Revolution to create factory workers, right? And so the underpinnings of our system, the Carnegie Unit, which keeps people in their seats a certain amount of time in order to demonstrate learning, that's a key policy design principle of our education system, but also the purpose, the structure of school, how we send kids as they get older to secondary school, and even in elementary, they take multiple subjects for distinct periods of time. They move on to the next idea, the next idea, the next idea. All of that was designed from a particular lens, right? And as we as humans advance, evolve, technology changes the way we understand ourselves and our opportunities to connect with each other, it's really important that we rethink where so many of our young people are spending their time, how they're spending their time, and in service of what end, right? And if the purpose, the way that we thought about what we were designing for, the purpose, I think, is different than what people actually think we need now. And so when we think about how education can be more than just academic knowledge, it's not that it's not academic knowledge. It's how do we develop academic knowledge through a lens which young people are empowered to explore their own purpose and curiosities, through which they are developing durable skills that are going to be timeless, particularly in the age of AI, where AI can come in and pass the tests that we have been giving kids forever, but it can't be human and can't solve a contextual problem, not yet, in the way that a human can. And at the end of the day, I think we are having a bit of a reckoning with ourselves right now about well, what does it mean to be human in this moment? And is it different? And what is timeless? And what is so important? And how is the school and the learning experiences and the relationships and environments of school actually empowering young people to develop those skills and be those things in service of the future they want to build for themselves? And so financial literacy comes up all the time when we engage young people. I'm a parent. I have a 7th grader whose favorite unit in math is an ongoing financial literacy unit he's doing. And he is understanding himself in new ways because he sees connections to how he's going to live in the world as a result of what he's learning. And so it's just like a missed opportunity if we're not connecting whatever it is that we're learning to actually how we're going to actually apply that, which maybe isn't new, but actually doing it might be.
Yeah. No, I love everything that you are saying, and just really, allowing kids to give them that agency that, this is your life. And I feel like, back in the day, when we were in school, like, we didn't get that agency. Like we, talked about believing in ourselves, and I think I can, I know I can.
Growth mindset.
Right. But it kind of ended there. You still kind of had to do what your parents said or do what the expectation was, but the world's different, and they're different. And I love how just even your son, and watching him grow the way that he has to be, just a unique experience.
Totally. Yep. And I think giving kids, young people, the space to show that they can demonstrate things that they know, but they can do it in ways that are authentic to them, that are going to build a portfolio to get them hired. We don't hire people because they're like everyone else for the most part. We try to hire someone who's going to do something that nobody else can do, or add a value add to our organization, right? And so if we don't help them see how they have what those things are, it's hard to be ready for what's after school, right?
No, I love that, because really with financial literacy, I think, it's just not about dollars and cents.
No.
It's more about confidence, critical thinking, and being able to just apply what you've learned into those real life decisions. And I know everyone that you work with, the students that you're working with, they seem a lot smarter than I am, and I think that that's just the preparation and the roadmap that you guys are creating at CFL. That speaks a lot about the work that you're doing. I want us to connect education and financial wellness. We're kind of already there, but we're going to go a little deeper. So the first question I have for you is, what skills from learner-centered education naturally connect with smart money management? So problem solving, goal setting, self-awareness.
When we think about financial literacy and financial wellness and how we might spend or save or what we do with our money, I think it is very similar to the kinds of skills we're talking about when we say durable skills, like critical thinking. When we spend money that is more than just ours, it's about collaboration and communication. When you're in a relationship and you're thinking about money, oftentimes that is a core conversation piece, right? Budgets and priorities and trade-offs, and how we make decisions around what we fund, because oftentimes what we're putting our resources to shows what we value. And so this sense of self-awareness, thinking about balance, and certainly thinking about problem solving when we have bigger ideas than our resources demand. How do we get really thrifty and creative? There's really no world, I think, where those durable skills don't intersect with what it means to be financially well and to make smart money decisions.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. To add on to that, and I'm pretty sure you're here with your family, families often tell us, they want their kids to be ready for life. They want them to be prepared. So how does the work that you do help prepare those students for those everyday responsibilities, including finances?
Financial. Okay. I think that there's a quote that's popping into my head. It's from a book I read many years ago, and I'm not going to be able to attribute it appropriately, but the quote is, "What we will ultimately know is determined by the kinds of questions we ask." And so I think our ability to really ask questions that open up possibilities, that reveal values, that invite us to think and then act in new and or aligned ways is the pathway to building a life, a home, and a future. And so the connection there with finances, right, is that these are the kinds of questions we have to be asking about how we spend our money. And so if we're in a social studies class examining patterns of change over time and thinking about or building a project that is representative of something we're learning about, the skills of doing that are transferable, right? And the transferability of that from English, math, dance, history, into just how you make decisions and how you are in the world. So I think that we can draw those connections, and if we're digging into those durable skills and we're not just teaching content, but we're teaching skill development through content, then we've got financial literacy skills.
Yeah. And man, I just wish it was.
Because literacy is not just reading or knowing, it's making meaning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we talk about the word literacy and we're often talking about reading, which is critical and is not literacy in its totality. And literacy is really how we make meaning of things. And so if we are asking questions and we're critical thinkers, we can make meaning. So then we can sit down and be like, what am I going to do with my finances? Who do I want to be? What do I want to build? So I just wanted to make that distinction because I think that came. I was like, wait, literacy, financial literacy. It's interesting because it's not just knowing all the things; it's how you make sense of what you know.
Yep. No, I'm glad you did that
Okay.
because I think a lot of people will agree with you. Where no, that's the total definition of literacy, and the question piece. I love you talking about asking all of these questions, like. We didn't talk about financial literacy in the household that I grew up in.
Sure.
We talked about a lot of things, but we just didn't talk about that. And I would have, and I'm pretty sure maybe you too, if we would have talked about those, if I would have asked the questions I didn't even know to ask, it would have showed up in every other life stage, especially the relationship, which we're probably going to do a podcast on relationships
Right?
and finances, because when I tell you, with someone, now being married, the stuff I know now that I did not even think was important when it comes to the financial conversation and relationships, game changer.
Well, and I think that's where the durable skills come in, right? Because it's not just so you can get hired,
Sure.
right? And we have so much workforce data now that demonstrates that employers and industry actually are demanding skills over certificates, skills over degrees. We're not fully there yet, but there is a real push, especially in this moment, for skills. And so that's something that's great. We want to prepare them for the workforce to make money and to build their life. And if you don't have the skills of communication and collaboration, it's going to be really hard to sustain relationships, whether it's with a partner, a spouse, a sibling, your family, and we know through research that actually the relationships and the quality of relationships we have determine our true happiness and durability in our lives, and the ability to actually build relationships is like all these skills.
Yeah.
So I think that's another connection point because it often comes up through money, right? And the challenges and opportunities in our relationships, but those skills give us the tools to make good decisions and to just be able to be with each other.
Yeah. No, I love all of this stuff. Like, again, we could be here for 3 hours, but I want to continue to work us through all the work that you guys are doing. So when we talk about the future-ready families, you work with districts and educators on kind of big picture transformation.
Yep.
So how can families apply some of those same principles at home?
Yeah, our team a couple years ago led the community process to build what's called the Portrait of a Nevada Learner. And that is something that the Nevada Department of Education said, they keep really coming out of COVID. We need to have a future-ready vision of what it means to be a learner through our entire education system, and really named the skills and attributes that are critical for not just surviving, but thriving, like you said at the beginning, right? Because kids and everybody wants to do more than survive. We want to thrive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And getting through school is one thing, but being prepared to build your future is another. And it should be seamless. We should be developing all those skills, not just some of them. And so that process was so humbling and powerful because it was a sense-making process with our community around what is really valuable. And one of the things our community did that this is like work that happens in many districts and states are undertaking this approach because there is a recognition that like it should be both and academics and skills, not just where we started. And what has come through that process I love to say Nevada's amazing because we are. Nevadans are amazing. And part of what our state portrait has a set of questions on it. Which I think just reinforced my belief that questions are such a valuable way to invite engagement. And those questions are things like, how am I growing in my learning? How do I build community and sustain relationships? How do I contribute to make an impact? How will I thrive? And I think that the best thing that parents can do are to ask questions, just to help surface new ideas, conversations, self-awareness, and the answers to those questions should surface more questions. And so, like you said, one conversation at a time, I think it's just by building those relationships and opening up the conversation that we can start to see what we believe and then align our actions to those things in the direction of like, what kind of life do you want to live? Michael, Julia, these are my kids. I'm like, hey, ask them a lot of questions to try and help them figure out what they actually think.
And that's, a real big thing that, again, questions, giving them that voice to even answer the questions. Because, we were just spent some time at a high school recently, and a lot of the students don't even respond when you're asking them the question. They give off with that Gen Z stare that I guess is a thing that I'm just learned about a couple of days ago. But say you are the parent, you're asking the right questions. How can families avoid the traps, whether this is in education or in finances, that limit growth and opportunity?
I mean, so I think like what limits growth and opportunity, right? I think so often when I think about that, what limits growth, what the opposite of growth would be like limits, right? Narrowness. And I think we walk around with a lot of assumptions, right? Based off of how we were raised or what our exposure is to certain ideas. And so questions are so powerful because they help us like challenge assumptions and shift the way that we think about things. And so I am of the philosophy there isn't always one right answer. I do think that it's important to have guiding values, and I think that the traps come in when we're doing things that aren't aligned with our deeper values. And if those things aren't clear, like you can just do things, right? We can do things to do them. We can pass courses in school, with the Gen Z stare, as you said, right? We can do a thing, but like, why are we doing the thing? And how are we connecting what we're doing to the set of values that we have in our own lives and that may be aligned to a thriving community? And so I think the traps are when we're not acting in ways that are in our own best interests and in the best interests of those we care about.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense, so powerful. Kind of reminds me, bringing this back to money, that it's not about being perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the things you're talking about with having questions, having the agency, you got to be present. And that's for the whole entire family. So I just love the way that you're engaging everyone to be a part of that.
Yeah, and it's funny when you're talking about that, you said something that made me think that like sometimes with money we have a very sum zero belief about it. Like more is better.
Sure.
And sometimes I think with grades in school, like it's like you're either right or you're wrong. You're rich or you're poor. And I will say that in conversations with money when I was teaching with students, like I did not always detect that limitless money. I very rarely detected that having so much money was the goal, as much as being able to live comfortably, to be able to make decisions about how they spent their free time in ways that they felt like they had some room to do some fun things, that they could eat, that really like a sense of basics and then a little bit more, right? And that they could dream and they could maybe pursue it. And so I just want to say too that this concept of literacy around money, and when we think about money, it's easy. I think oftentimes we can make it a binary conversation, like more is better. And certainly an abundance of resources is a great thing, is a problem we'd probably mostly choose to have. I would choose to have it.
Exactly.
And when we think of values, priorities, and trade-offs, and we talk about those things, then, how much time does it take to make that money? How do you want to spend the time that you have? And maybe I'll make a little less money if I get a little more time, or maybe a little more control over how I spend my time. And so I think a question I wish I had been asked when I was younger, that I try to ask my kids at different stages, is like, how do you like to spend your time? And help build from there too, because that I think determines how much money do you think you need, and other things that could come from that too.
Yeah, and it reminds me of things we were talking about earlier, essentially living at your own pace.
Yes.
Right? This is where, like, on the podcast, we've talked about living at your own pace financially, but this is almost that holistic conversation of, like, what matters to you? What are your values? Like, what's the purpose of doing all of the things? And which brings us back to living at your own pace.
Totally.
The Financial Seeds podcast is powered by Silver State Schools Credit Union. At Silver State Schools Credit Union, our focus is to provide excellent member service and financial solutions for life. Now is the perfect time to lock in lower payments and more savings with SSSCU's new even lower vehicle loan rates, now starting at just 4.99% annual percentage rate. That's 4.99% APR, available for both purchases and refinancing. Members can drive more and pay less with SSSCU's new lower rate of 4.99% APR. Visit silverstatecu.com/drive to learn more and experience why Silver State Schools Credit Union is banking done better. Silver State Schools Credit Union finances up to 100% of MSRP for new vehicles or the Kelley Blue Book retail value for used vehicles. Additional terms and conditions to qualify. May not be combined with other offers. Rates, terms, and conditions are subject to change without notice. Must be a member to apply. Visit silverstatecu.com for more details.
So, Jeanine, before we wrap, I want you to share one more takeaway for families listening and watching. Something that maybe they can do this week to make their home a place where learning and financial growth go hand in hand.
Yeah, well, I think the right answer from this conversation is probably, what kinds of questions could we ask? So I think, I have a wonderful 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I always fall into the trap. I think, like probably most parents, like, how was your day? What did you do?
Yeah.
And I think moving from that to questions that help support values development and values like uncovering and a sense of gratitude is a place I'm trying to push myself as a parent. So, hey, like, who were you really kind to today?
That's
Who
good.
helped you in a moment where you were struggling? What did you notice about X teacher that maybe you haven't noticed before? When was a moment that you were really clicking with what you were learning and it made you excited? And if that didn't happen, I try to ask appreciative questions because I think it engenders a sense of possibility.
Sure.
And I think like what would you want to do differently tomorrow? Where did you, like I think these reflective questions that help create space for conversations around values are the kinds of things that like then the next conversation becomes like, how are you spending your time in that direction? And then eventually, how are we spending our money in that direction?
Yeah.
So I think just laying the foundation for that. And I've noticed that the more questions I ask my kids, they start to ask me too. And
Good.
so where I've been tired at the end of the day and maybe I'm like not asking questions and I'm just eating dinner because I want to go to bed soon. They're like, well, tell me about your day, Mom. And like, isn't that cool? Like to have that reflected back to you. So that two-way relationship beyond the stare is a great goal.
Awesome. So before we close, this is our segment where we like to plant the seeds of wisdom. And today's seed is that education is more than grades and test scores. It's about building the habits, skills, and values that shape how we live. When families embrace learning as a lifelong journey, they also equip themselves to make better financial choices. So here's the challenge for this week. Talk to your kids about one lesson from school and connect it to money. This could be math, history, art, or even dance, right? Because every subject can teach us how to think, grow, and invest in our future. So, man, this episode was like that. We really thank you, Jeanine. Just the depth, the knowledge, all the free gems you gave all of us. Like I said earlier, we could be here all night talking, but we know you got to run. We know you got to go. So I want to thank you again for being here, being a tremendous guest, being someone that is making our educational system better. And we, again, thank you for being here with us on today.
Oh, thanks. This was fun. We'll have to get together again.
Of course. And for everybody who's watching and listening, you already know we want you to continue to support the Financial Seeds podcast. You can do that by liking, commenting, subscribing, and also rating us. We want that 5-star rating. So please do that for us. We really appreciate it. If you're on social media, we want you to follow us on all our social media accounts, and please share this with everyone you know. If you know someone in the education system, rather that is your children, someone down the street, your neighbor, they need to get this episode because we are trying to be better together. So please, we need your help. We need everything from y'all. Until next time, my name is JimDre. We will see you guys next week and keep planting those seeds.
The Financial Seeds podcast is powered by Silver State Schools Credit Union. Hosted by JimDre Westbrook, co-hosted by Brianna Chavez, produced by Leandre Fox, and created in the Scott A.R. Kills production studio. The Financial Seeds podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as financial, legal, or tax advice. All opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Silver State Schools Credit Union. Listeners should consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to their individual situation.